So it's been quite some time since I've actually written a blog or even did a video blog. And so I wanted to be obedient to God. He gave me over 3 months ago to talk about masking. And so masking can come in various forms. We can use masking to hide hurt and pain of who we really are. We can use masking to present a persona to the public that we are this perfect individual. Or, masking can come in various forms. It can come in our careers. It can come that we have that spouse that we've desired. It can come with our children, materialistic things. It can come with degrees. It can come with whatever it is that we think that others would want to see and others would respect us by. We present that to the public instead of the woman of God that God has called us to be. And so I was asking God, how do I relate this to myself? What's something that I can share? And so one of the things he gave me is that when I was going through life coaching, I had been given a personality assessment. And this is one that would tell if you were a leader or if you were a team player, if you were an introvert, extrovert, one of those. And so I could not get this particular test to tell me exactly who I was. It kept giving me, that I was a little bit of a leader as well as a little bit of a team player, and it would not give me one solid answer. So literally I tried to trick the system and I took it over 4 times. I can remember specifically I was erasing. I got tired of erasing, so I made copies. It would never ever give me a solid answer, and that's because I was hiding who I really was to this particular system. And so my coach had asked me, how did I do on it? And so I was honest and I told her I couldn't pass it. And so she asked me, was there anything that I was hiding or anything that I was masking that I needed to be healed from? And so originally I said no, because I really didn't think that there was anything that had gone on in my life lately that I was good with. But what I didn't think about was that I had wanted to, for quite some time, I wanted to talk to my mother about me being molested, or just let her know that it took place, because that is a part of who I am. And so I wanted to protect her. I didn't want her to be harmed by what occurred to me, because I had survived it and I had turned out to be okay. And so I never did tell her. But that was something that I was masking. I was hiding that from my mother. Instead, I was presenting, this perfect child who had her own set of issues. But as far as my mother knew, I had never been harmed by anyone in that manner. And so I went ahead to, reveal that to my mother. And thankfully, through prayer, she was able to handle it. And so now I'm able to talk about it to help other women to heal from their hurts and pain. And so it was something that God had told me, you need to let this go so that I can use you. I want to use all of you, Tamika. I don't want just the good things. I don't just want your triumphs, but I want your hurt and your pain as well, because there are so many who are going through, and they need to hear your testimony to be able to know that they too can be healed and delivered from it. And so I was asking God, how can I present this to your people? And so he quickly gave me Esther, and I thought about Esther. What an amazing story. Esther was an orphan girl, as we know, and she was raised by her cousin Mordecai. Mordecai worked in the Persian kingdom with King Xerxes, and the king had a wife by the name of Vashti, and the king was having a festival with some of his friends, let's say some of his homeboys. They were out drinking and they were having a good time, and he had called for Queen Vashti and said, come and parade in front of my guys, you look good, I want them to have a show tonight. And so Queen Vashti said, no, I'm not going to do it. And so at that point, he was upset, he was embarrassed, and so he decided, what, I'm going to consult with my top executives, and we're going to see what we can do about this. And the decision was made to get rid of Queen Vashti. Well, the king decided then it's time for me to find a new queen, and so he had concubine of women, and so he put out a call for a new queen. He was looking for a new queen, and so Esther's cousin, who was raising her, worked for the king. And so he had told Esther, hey, here's a good opportunity for you to come up. You're beautiful. I know that they'll think that you're attractive. I can get you in there. Just don't tell them that you are a Jew. Hide your identity. And so Esther went before the king. She was selected. She was beautiful. They said she had a dark complexion, and those who were selected had to go through their 12 months of beauty parlor and spa treatment. Some like to refer to this as an example of the Bachelor show that we see on TV, that Esther was selected among the women that were there. You had to be a virgin to be a part of this contest. Esther basically was called upon the king, and then she performed well that night, and so she won. So God can use imperfect people too, is what we're going to see at the end of this. She won that night, and so he crowned her as Queen Esther. And so Esther is now in the kingdom, and a situation comes up 4 years later. I think it was actually 5 years later. Mordecai found himself in a peculiar situation. He would not bow down to Haman, who was a part of the king's top executives. Haman became upset, and he said, you know what? Since you didn't bow down to me, I'm going to kill all the Jews. And we're talking about 15 million Jews who were in jeopardy. We're talking about a genocide, complete wipeout of this particular nationality. And so Mordecai came to Esther, and he said, I basically need you to go before the king and to tell him the truth. Tell him what actually happened and let him know that you are a Jew. And so Esther's thinking, oh no, I finally made it to this, top, luxurious kingdom. And here I am. I have my own quarters. I have my own maids, my own cooks. I don't have to do anything. I finally have the opportunity to be somebody, and now you want me to go before the king, especially when he hasn't called me, because back then you had to be called by the king before you could approach him. And so Mordecai had told her in Esther 5:14, actually 4:14, he said, so if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but you that you have come to a royal position for a time such as this. Esther had to really consider what she was up against. But thankfully, she decided that, you know what, it's time for me to reveal exactly who I am. It's time for me to trust God for who he really is in my life, and allow him to use this imperfect individual to set these Jews free. And so Esther did go before the king, and thankfully the king accepted her. He allowed her to come in, and he heard exactly what she said. And so not only did Esther help save the Jews, but she also gained wealth in this process. She, as well as Mordecai, were given higher positions within the kingdom. And so I'm saying this to say that no matter who you are, no matter what you're going through, who's to say that God has not allowed you to go through that thing to help his kingdom, to further his kingdom, for you to be able to use exactly the gifts that he's given you, those trials and those triumphs, for you to be able to give that back to the world, for you to be able to save someone else, for you to be able to tell someone that they can not only make it, but they can make it and live good. So today I'm inviting you to not only think about what it is that you've gone through, but to ask God to begin to heal it and to begin to remove the mask. My prayer today is that we not only live a life that is pleasing to him, but we live a life that's full of purpose. We live a life that he has ordained for us to live, that encompasses our hurts, our pains, as well as our triumphs and our victories. Have an amazing day. Choose to not only live, but to live on purpose.